Ladies and gentlemen, we are live. We have with
Right on.
us Mr. Dan Moses, Mr. Oriel Gaines,
Hello.
Mr. Israel Horowitz, and we have Oriel's friend on the way. We're here to discuss um, the oral Torah, the oral versus the written. Uh, Me and Dan's belief is that the only Torah that exists is the written Torah, the five books of Moses. Oriel and his friends believe that there is an oral law that also comes from Moses, and that's what we're here to debate. So, Oriel, let's give you your opening statement.
All right. So the debate's going to be on was an oral Torah given at Sinai. Now, my opponents here, both of my opponents, have no way to verify at all that the Torah itself is from Sinai. They have no way to verify it. And we're comparing the two systems that we have, the system that accepts the written and the system that accepts the written and the oral. The only system, which includes the oral Torah, that has an ounce of evidence that the Torah is in fact from Sinai is the oral tradition, which would make it more justifiable to believe, right? Only this system that includes the oral and the written has any substantial evidence to show this. You can go ahead with yours.
Okay.
Okay, that was quick.
I mean, you made a pretty bold claim that you're saying that we have no way to identify that the Torah was at Sinai. So what's yours?
Right. So what I would say is to start off, why would you, I mean, I don't think it's really an opening statement, but why do you reject the oral Torah to start off?
Reject the oral Torah because it references itself and it has nothing to do with the written Torah. It actually rejects it constantly. It adds laws upon laws that have people deviate. It cuts people out, and it has the exact opposite effect of the commandments manifest in action.
Right. So you would say that it adds. Now, what I would say to that is I think you could agree that if the oral Torah was in fact given at Sinai, right, this would then not be adding to the law. This would be incorporated in the law, correct?
Yeah.
Big if.
That's a big if. I wouldn't say correct. No.
You're saying that I'm just giving you like a hypothetical, right? If it was in fact given at Sinai, right, then it would not be
the oral Torah.
Oral Torah, right?
Okay.
I'll stick to the Ikarim. This would not be adding to the law because this is given with the Torah, correct?
Dude, the way that you phrase your questions, I don't really understand your frame of questioning.
It's pretty simple, right? If the Torah was given alongside the oral Torah at Sinai, right?
Yes.
If the oral Torah was from God, then it's from God,
right? And it would not be adding, correct? It'd be part of the law.
But this is the only thing that's like funny about this whole premise is that the only thing we know for certain that was given at Sinai is the Torah, the written Torah.
Okay, so you just said that the only thing that we know that is for sure given at Sinai is the written Torah, right?
Yes.
I'm going to ask you, how do you know the Torah is in fact from Sinai?
Even if you wanted to make a self-referencing claim, it claims that it starts from Adam all the way until Moses through the patriarchs to where Moses literally wrote it and talks about the event. And there's over 1 million witnesses confirming that that is true. That is the foundational piece of literature that confirms it happened at all. Even if it's a fantasy. That is the claim. That is the statement. That's where you get it from.
So if you're going to appeal to the Torah itself to establish that it's transmitted from that point, this would be committing the fallacy of begging the question, because you are using what's in question to answer what's in question. I'm putting into question the claim of the Torah that it's in fact from Sinai, and I'm asking you how you can verify this.
The Torah itself, it's its own claim. Right.
So
let's just for a moment, if you don't mind. Do you mind if I pause you for a moment?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. Where do we get even? Let's just say it's a mythical story. It's made up. It's not real. Where do people get the story that the Jewish people were taken out of Egypt from the house of slavery and were given the 10 commandments? I want you to answer that question for me.
And that's irrelevant to my question, right? My question was, how do you know?
It's not irrelevant to your question because that's literally the Torah self-referencing itself. It's the only piece of literature that tells you about that story, nothing else.
So as I already said, if you're going to reference the Torah as evidence that the Torah was soundly transmitted, right, that it's in fact from Sinai, you are committing the fallacy of begging the question. because you are using what's in question to answer what's in question. Your premises are assuming the conclusion.
Yeah, but again, here's something that you have to understand, which is that the Torah is documented history. It's indisputable history. So, like when you ask, how do you know history? Because from history, the Torah was accepted world history for thousands of years until some idiot atheist decided to question it. The reality is, this is established history of the world and of the Israelite nation. The oral Torah comes along historically 2,000 years later. It's literally rabbis saying their own opinions, and they're pretending that this is from Sinai.
Right. So
you're
so
committing
when you
a
say-
historical fallacy.
Right. So when you say that the Torah is in fact an historical event, the fact it was given at Sinai, because let's say that people believe this, because the Jews in fact believe this, right? They affirm this at this time, right? This is going to be committing the fallacy of an ad populum, where you appeal to the fact that the people affirm it to be at Sinai, and therefore it's true, right? 'Cause
No.
I can show you-
How do you affirm any historical event?
right. You can, for example, look at-
Documentation, right?
right, attestations. You can look at mass transmission, right?
Uh-huh.
So what I'm asking you to do is show me and establish that this claimed historical fact that you just said, the Torah was given at Sinai, is actually true, right? You have to provide evidence for
How
this.
do you establish any truth of history?
Right.
Yeah,
through
but just to get an
evidence,
idea of where you're coming
things,
from.
through mass transmission, there's multiple ways. Archaeology. So I'm asking you to provide and show me that the Torah that you have today is in fact the Torah given at Sinai, right? You have to establish this.
Okay. So I just had a separate question for you. Like, what is your evidence? Like, educate me. I'm a layman. I don't understand your fancy terms. I'm not here to necessarily argue with you. I actually want to understand where you're coming from. And you're like creating a frame, it sounds like, to create some sort of trap. We don't need to do that. You can simply tell me what your evidence is. Can you tell us what your evidence is?
I'm glad to
Because
provide
we
you
said
evidence.
we said that the Torah is evidence enough. The world claims it as such. There's over 1 billion Christians who get their information simply from that. It's more of a thriving culture. We as Jews mostly live in other countries other than Israel, which is a relatively new state, a Zionistic and an unreligious state, ultimately, that doesn't really value the principles in there. And so I want to know, where is it that you find this strong evidence that I don't have or can't claim?
Okay, so you agree then you don't have evidence that the Torah is from Sinai, correct?
Do I agree that we don't have evidence?
That you cannot provide.
No, I just want to see where you're coming from.
So I'm going to move to show you the evidence once you like either provide me the evidence or you can see that you don't have.
I think that the Torah, again, I actually don't think that it matters whether it's real or not. I think that the meta concept of the Torah is enough. And if it's influenced people and culture, I mean, the best piece of evidence about the Torah and both the oral Torah is that there isn't evidence to disprove that God isn't real. It's like asking me to bring you, you're asking me a question, like, bring me evidence why God is real.
That's not my question, right?
That's a trap question.
God
Right? It's kind of like
real.
a juvenile question.
God can be real without the Torah being given at Sinai, right? So this is not like addressing my question, which is simply, how do you know that the Torah is in fact given at Sinai? Again, if you don't have like a good response, you can just admit that, and I can move on to show you the actual evidence.
Yeah, that's fine, please.
So you then concede that you cannot display or
Yeah,
show.
me personally, right? Like, I don't lose sleep at night. It doesn't actually change anything for me. It might
wasn't
make
asking
you
you
lose
what
sleep at
emotionally
night,
affected
but
you.
Israel is welcome to step in.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Israel, can you provide me-
Again, you continue to pretend like you have some definition for historicity outside of documentation and the transmission of genuine historical events. You can even take the Torah's position, Deuteronomy chapter 4. It says, "Ask now from the beginning of time, from the day that God created man on earth, until this very day, has a God ever taken a nation out of slavery with a mighty hand and signs and wonders?" It's never happened, right? The Torah is an unbelievable claim, a remarkable event. It's accepted history by the entire world. That's a historical event.
right.
As opposed to the oral Torah, suspiciously, is a secret transmission from one Rebbe to his other Rebbe in his ear, and it's a game of broken telephone with zero evidence other than your belief. So if you want to talk about,
if you're going to say the evidence that it was in fact transmitted silently until now and that it was given at Sinai is because people believe it's history, this is an ad populum fallacy, right? Many people believe, for example, in other religions like Islam, that Muhammad split the moon, right? It doesn't mean that this in fact occurred. This is not evidence. So unless you can actually show evidence that Torah is in fact from Sinai, you're just kind of falling into this loop of fallacies.
So it's so interesting. We were here to debate oral Torah. You seem to be questioning the written Torah as well. So do you not believe in the written Torah?
No. So the reason why I'm bringing up the written Torah as part of this is because if it is the case that we have two systems here, one system is written only, right, and the other system is written and oral. And the system of written only cannot provide an ounce of evidence that the Torah is from Sinai, while the written and oral can. We're going to go by the system that has the evidence, right, that can establish whether even it's a little small amount of evidence that the Torah is from Sinai, because it would be
may I actually
viable to believe.
You're telling me that you're not going with the system that happens to be God's word and works, as in like we can say oral or written Torah or whatever it is that you prefer, but isn't the outcome what you care about?
What do you mean the outcome?
Like isn't following the doctrine, let's just say it's both written and oral Torah, that you are now a Jew, a priest amongst the nation, part of the nation of Israelites who are supposed to hold this holy standard?
Sure, following the Torah is like the goal, right? But how do you know the Torah is given at Sinai?
Okay, got it. So that's what I'm saying. Like, so it just sounds like to me you don't think that the written Torah is a valid piece of literature.
When did I say that? I'm questioning
by basically constantly getting me to conform to the idea that the written Torah is not enough, that there's something beyond it.
Well, that's not what I'm saying.
But it sounds like that. That's why I'm trying to actually get to your point instead of dragging it on.
If the system that you and Israel follow of written only, right, cannot provide an ounce of evidence that Torah is from Sinai, it makes this system that you guys have unverifiable, right? And no one should follow an unverifiable system, right, that doesn't have an ounce of evidence, right? So that's why I'm asking.
But I'm saying, what gives it the validity that it's been verified? Because even with the oral Torah, you can go on your rabbit hole and we'll come to the same conclusion that it isn't.
I'm just waiting for
enough.
Right? Like
that is what atheists believe in.
Sure.
That is what a huge population of people who don't follow Torah, much less oral Torah. The people who follow oral Torah and written Torah make up a subdivision of the world. Even the Jews, which are less than a percentage, basically about 10 or 15% are practicing by this oral tradition. And there's about 10 or 15 sects that have disagreements with each other on how to follow that.
Right. So as I already said, in regards to like people following like a system, right? This is irrelevant to the system being true. There are millions of Orthodox Jews, right, that all affirm an oral Torah to be true. It doesn't mean the oral Torah is true. That's not evidence. This is why we're circling back to this ad populum fallacy.
Yeah, but there's billions of Christians who use that same foundation, and there's plenty of antiquity and archaeology and literature.
Billions of Christians affirm Jesus to be God. Does that make him God?
No, not necessarily.
Thank you. So the numbers don't.
I got it. But just because the oral Torah exists, or there are people claiming that the oral Torah is the Torah and it's at Sinai, doesn't mean that it's also God as well. You're talking about religion. This takes faith.
I never made a claim, but I'm just waiting for you. Again, I'm asking you if you can provide evidence it's from Sinai. If you can't, that's okay, and I can move on to show you how we do have evidence. But I want to wait to see if you can. If you can't, it's okay.
Again,
I'd be happy, by the way, to answer that if you want. I would say that the 5 books of Moses itself is a good claim, right? You also have the Old Testament. You have the prophets, the Nevi'im. You have Joshua immediately opening up the book saying that you must follow the 5 books of Moses. If you deviate to the right or to the left, you have King David who tells his son Solomon, follow the 5 books of Moses, don't deviate to the right or to the left. You have Josiah, who actually was during a period of time where people were not practicing Torah at all, much less oral Torah, to the point that he found a parchment of the 5 books of Moses and brought back the holidays and had to start relearning Torah. So this idea that there was an oral tradition when people weren't even following things like don't commit adultery, don't murder, don't do prostitution, were clearly pieces of evidence that, again, I'm not the person, like the Old Testament is a very valid piece of literature. Also, the 5 books of Moses is the oldest piece of literature in antiquity. It is 3,500 years old. We have Dead Sea Scrolls to confirm that that is the rawest and purest form of information and written literature. Regardless if you believe that it's actually true or not, that is the piece of evidence that we have.
Great. So let me respond to that. I'm going to respond to a couple of things. First of all, when you mention the Dead Sea Scrolls, right, and that would be evidence that, for example, the Torah you have today is the same one at Sinai, you fall into an issue. Now, that issue would be two things. Number one, the Dead Sea Scroll scribes affirm that the Messiah would come from Aaron. Do you affirm this?
One more time, please.
The scribes of the Dead Sea Scrolls affirm that the Messiah would come from Aaron. Do you affirm this?
The Messiah would come from Aaron?
Yes, the scribes of the Dead Sea Scrolls affirm this.
They do?
Yes.
You've read the Dead Sea Scrolls?
This is an historical fact. Yes.
Okay, it's a new historical fact to me. So you're like self-referencing that it's a historical fact when we can read the Torah, which, by the way, says is exactly the same as the Dead Sea Scrolls. Like, I've been to the museum. They say that it's exactly the same, that there is no addition, that Aaron, some Messiah. That's not five.
That's
books.
not in
Where
the
did
Torah,
you get
right?
that out of?
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying. It's not in the Torah.
This is ultimately one second. This is ultimately a conversation about the Torah, and the reality is that the oldest manuscripts of the Torah, including the translation of the Torah to the Septuagint, which was far before there was ever a rabbinic Judaism in place, the Torah has been consistent. The Samaritan Torah, the Masoretic text, the Septuagint, the core document is intact. There are minor differences based off of different political agendas or whatever, but the ultimate fact is that the Torah is completely intact. The laws, the narratives are intact. It is a reflection of world history, and it is a revelation from God. And if you think, because let's get to your point, which is you think that from the oral Torah, you have proof of the written Torah, let's hear your proof that the oral Torah provides, because we're not using oral Torah to prove written Torah. Right. You apparently have that proof, so go ahead.
So let me first address.
The floor is yours.
So when you use the Dead Sea Scrolls as evidence, for example, there's a couple of things you said. You said it's old, right? Therefore, if it's ancient, you're talking about the Torah itself, and that would be an appealing to
it's the oldest piece of literature in antiquity.
Right. Sure. So just because something old does not mean, for example, it's evidence.
No, I get it, but like that's
right.
It's still like you could go back.
It's evidence that the Torah has been intact for a long time.
Yeah.
And I can even grant you, for example, right, that the Torah was intact at that point up until now, right, as the evidence from the Dead Sea Scrolls. What about the 1,300 years prior? How do you know that it was soundly transmitted from those 1,300 years?
1,300 years prior, like it depends who you're talking to, right? The only people who even believe in a 6,000-year timeline are the people who follow the Torah and go by the biblical framework.
I don't mean to creation, I mean to Sinai. Right, from the point of the Dead Sea Scrolls. How do you know that it was soundly transmitted, right, from the point of Sinai, which was 1,300 years before the Dead Sea Scrolls were written?
So you're saying that from the giving of the Torah, which was 3,500 years ago, up until when people found the Dead Sea Scrolls 2,000 years ago, around the time of the New Testament.
Yes, exactly.
But I'm saying just because people found an old piece of literature doesn't mean it didn't exist prior to that.
I agree. Sure. So can you show me the evidence that that manuscript existed prior to 1,300 years before and that it was soundly transmitted up until that point?
We really don't have a lot of evidence to show that. That is true.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to hear about your evidence, though.
Great. So now that you've admitted that you have no way...
But just to get an idea, like I'm willing to buy into this, okay?
Sure.
But you're telling me that you have a piece of oral Torah that predates the Dead Sea Scrolls that is going to confirm.
But I can show you evidence.
Because that's what is kind of where your claim is headed.
Never said that, but let me...
I know you didn't say it. That's what it sounds like. So,
okay. So now that you've conceded that you cannot provide any evidence the Torah that you possess today is in fact given at Sinai, I'm going to move on now to the evidence that we possess. The evidence I'm going to show you, right, is the chain of transmission that we can find, for example, in the Mishnah and is referenced by, for example, Maimonides. This chain...
Dude, Maimonides is like from the 1500s.
Sure. Right. There's no issue with this.
There is an issue with that.
You're making the exact same argument, a chain of transmission.
Chain of transmission.
That's
when?
Retarded.
You'd have to have written confirmation that that chain was never broken. You understand that there's older religions than the Torah, right?
Sure. So let me
let's talk about Zoroastrian oral religion.
I'll say. Let me
Does that confirm that it's true because the Zoroastrians never wrote down their written tradition?
That's not my argument, right? My point.
No, but I'm making a historical claim to give you some additional pieces of evidence.
Right. So what I'm making, let me just to clarify right now, is that the chain, right? Let's say the chain had a 99% chance that it was fabricated. Let's just assume this, right? Let's say it was 99%. Or even 99.9% the chain was made up. It's still more evidence than what you provided.
No, it's not. No, it's not. You just said, let's quote. If 99% of it was made up, it would be better claimed than what you said.
So again, if you're going to
So I'd
overtalk
like
me,
to repeat that out loud, though. Is that
okay,
what you said?
So I'll let you repeat it, and then if you don't let me respond, I'm not going to engage, right? So go ahead.
You said that if 99% of it were false, that it would be
That's not
better
what I said.
evidence than
That's
the
not what I
5
said.
books of
I
Moses.
said, for example, if there was a 99% chance, let's say, that it was completely fabricated, right? The chain. Let's say it was that high level of a chance that it was actually made up, right? It would still be more evidence than what you provided to substantiate the written Torah being given at Sinai, which was nothing.
Okay,
No,
I'm sorry. The
no.
collective revelation of an entire. One second.
Finish,
This
let
is
me finish.
absurd. No, what you're saying is so crazy.
The epistemic chain itself, right? An attestation of a chain is much more reliable than what you provided, which is simply nothing. Which is,
An attestation of a historical event witnessed by an entire nation versus a chain from one rabbi to the next. Why is that more reliable to you? Because it was a chain from one rabbi to the next versus a accepted historical drama that took place in an entire region that was accepted history by the entire region. But the secret transmission of the rabbis is more legitimate to you?
Well, not the secret transmission. It's because the chain itself, right? We can see the names of the people, number one. We can see, number two, the
There's
fact
a chain from me to Moses,
but
to my father, to his father, to his father.
First of all, it is
oh my God, let me finish. Okay. Again, we can see the names of the people. We can see how it was transmitted. We can see, for example, the institutions that it was transmitted from, right? In this chain, when we look at, for example, the evidence you provided, which
please, you made a bold claim. Please show us. Please tell us.
So again, what we have in the chain, for example, is we can see going all the way back from Moses to Joshua and all the way down to the prophets, as well as the elders. And
no, you have only written Torah to confirm that. Okay, and then in those documents, it references the 5 books. Wrong. I can quote for you. Would you like me to read it?
So again, there is no chain, right, that we find. Let me finish. There is no unbroken chain, for example, that we find in the written Torah that goes all the way down to the present today, right? And again, if you're going to appeal to the written Torah to provide evidence, this is begging the question. But I'm trying to make my point very clear, right? Yeah. Even if the chain is completely unreliable, even if the chain has a very high % chance of being fabricated or of erring in the transmission of this supposed chain, right? It's still more evidence than what you provided, which is nothing, right? And therefore, mine is going to be more JTB, which means more justifiable to believe, right? I'll give you an example of this.
Can I get in a word, actually? Because I have a dispute.
If you have a coin, right? If you have a coin, right? And that coin is like a quarter, and you flip the coin, right? And there's a little tiny little weight on the back of the quarter. It's so microscopic. You're still going to choose the quarter when you make the bet because it's still more likely that that thing is true, that that's more evidence that it's going to land in that place. Because you've provided zero evidence, the most plausible and reasonable decision to make is going to be to follow the tradition that has an ounce of evidence. It's in fact from Sinai, which yours does not.
But by your logic, you shouldn't follow any of these because if you don't see this as evidence, you should just denounce the Torah and the oral Torah altogether. The reality is, we see this as evidence because of the substance.
Can I have that Tanakh, please?
Yeah, because of the substance and the content of the Torah. Okay, that's why Dan said even if the Torah wasn't true, the truth claims about God and the nature of reality are so true that it proves itself.
So give me an example,
including the fact that it is accepted world history versus an accepted transmission of rabbis and institutions. You place more faith in rabbis and institutions over the collective memory and consciousness of mankind, where God reveals himself to an entire nation, and that's what's preserved in the memory of the nation and the surrounding nations of the region.
Position, which you are yet to prove. I place more faith.
Can I ask a question just about, first of all,
your faith in an epistemic chain, right, than nothing, right? Because you have no evidence. The only evidence that you
just keep saying that, but you don't have any evidence either.
I did.
No, you don't. You're referencing yourself.
A chain of narration, which is.
I mean, you keep cutting me off, right? You've been on a whole rant about a coin and the backside, and it had no actual correlation to our discussion at all. It would basically be like me, like because the sky is blue and grass is green, that your like infallible discussion, disproves oral Torah, and so thus, like, dude, have a conversation with me, like we're trying to get to common ground, right? Like, wouldn't it be the best debate for you ever if you converted us to Orthodoxy?
Sure. Right.
Great. Right. And for like me, at least, cause like I'm a guest on Israel's show, like it would be nice to give you an alternative thought as to like where these things come from. Right. So now, something that we're both oral and written Torah people are going to be up on a dispute is that we don't have enough evidence to prove that any of this stuff is really real. Right. that is something that is an outworldly claim towards the Jewish people, right?
Right,
That we
but
make this sort of thing
when
up.
we're choosing a system, right, between two systems. For
Got it.
example,
So I'd like to just talk about the systems, and I'll
no,
talk
no,
about
one second.
this system, right?
So
And I'll show you some evidence in the literature
sure. But when we're
that
choosing
shows that
between-
this system is valid. First
we're
of all, you
choosing-
have the 10 Commandments,
Okay,
right? As
Go
an
ahead.
excellent piece of information that has affected culture, which you can confirm comes from the written Torah.
Sure, the Quran
and-
affected culture too. How does that show that the Torah is given?
Even the Quran admits that the Torah is where the 10 Commandments come from. You're
Right,
the
and you
only
have
person who
Hammurabi
doesn't
Stone.
seem to want to admit that. Does
You have Hammurabi
the
Stone.
10 Commandments come from another piece of literature?
When did I say this? I'm asking you.
I got it. Just so then let me finish, right? Like
your argument does not follow, right? You showing the 10 Commandments has nothing to do with the Torah or giving evidence that the Torah is in fact from Sinai. This is just like a random assertion.
But you don't have any evidence either. You're like Maimonides, dude. You know that if you were
I have
to
I have a chain which is more epistemically reliable than what you have, which
it's
is
not
nothing.
because that chain didn't exist. It didn't even exist up until the Mishnah was
Dude,
created.
it's literally
which
a
means there's an
self-referenced.
older-
It's a self-referencing chain. It's the exact same thing. The rabbis of the Mishnah claim that their authority goes back to Moses. How convenient! They're self-referencing their own authority. I would much rather a document on the caliber of the Torah self-reference itself than rabbis self-reference themselves for the nature of their chain of transmission and their
right. The evidence I'm providing is not, for example, that they affirm the oral Torah, therefore it's true. That was the evidence you provided when it came to the Torah. The evidence is the fact that when you have a written chain, right, it is more epistemologically justifiable, right, than simply, for example, faith or testimony.
Well, it wasn't a written chain; it was an oral chain. That's first of all.
No, the chain is written. You can see a written chain.
It's written now. It was oral, right?
Sure.
It was called
It's
oral
still
What
Torah.
was written? Moses to Joshua to the prophets to the men of the great assembly. Is this the secret chain you're talking about? What chain?
It's not so secret. You can find
Okay,
it in
so-
Maimonides.
Okay, so that's not they're just connecting themselves historically, connecting the dots, saying we followed Moses. Therefore, if we
no, they're not saying we follow Moses. They show a direct chain of transmission of the Torah from Moses all the way until now. Right?
I do. Let's just say that the Torah.
Again.
You finish.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm not saying that this chain is like very solid, sound evidence. The Torah is in fact from Sinai, but it is more evidence what you provided, which is nothing.
It's
which
not.
means
That's actually
none is
been
more
your only claim to
justifiable
evidence.
believe.
Right? You that's your only claim to evidence that the chain is so strong that that's the best thing that I
This
have.
is all I need to provide to win the debate because it's more justifiable to believe than what you have, which is nothing.
I mean, like, okay, right? Like,
congratulations.
you're very, very frustrated. Can I get a word out?
Thank you for the concession.
Yes. I want to just say that, like, let's just claim, like, it sounds like your claim is that the only reason that people even have the written Torah is because of the oral Torah. Is that correct?
No.
No. Okay. So then.
I'll say. Let me clarify my claim, right? My claim is that the only.
I don't want to go back to your entire claim.
I'm not going to go to my whole argument. I'm going to clarify what I said, right? This is just to make sure you understand. The only way that we can provide an ounce of evidence for the Torah actually being from Sinai is through the tradition which affirms the oral law, is through the system that affirms the oral law.
I'd actually go so far to say that there is no actual evidence to confirm that. It's
3500
years. There's a lot of evidence. There's antiquity. There's a lot of semi-proof, but we can't actually confirm it. If we did, there would be a mass following. Like, if you go to Israel, right, and you go to the old city, right, like 35% of that is basically a shrine to Christ. And so you can go visit Christ's grave. And if you ask a priest over there if Christ is literally buried in that grave, they're going to say, yes, his body is there. Wouldn't that be more evidence to Christ? So now you should convert from Judaism to Christianity. It's like, or we can have a discussion about how faith and literature affects people and what the whole purpose of your religion is about.
So I'll explain why it's significant to talk about this specifically, right? Because
I want to bring some evidence from the Torah, right?
And
so what would you say about a line in the Torah? So it says like here in Hazinu, right? So it was that when Moses finished writing the words of this Torah onto a book until their final conclusion, like you're like, I'm gonna have to go through the Mishnah to find out if that's actually confirmable, or like, do you believe that literature and those words are true?
Right. So when we look at like why we should follow a system, we go by evidence. This is with anything, right?
You can't answer my question. You always go back to the evidence thing. I'm willing to even concede that all of this doesn't have enough evidence.
So if we're gonna go by Judaism, if we're gonna pick a system in Judaism, we're gonna go by the system which has the most evidence or has an ounce of evidence that the Torah is in fact from Sinai. because your system has no evidence, right? And it's completely
my system. I didn't make it up. I'm not like the only person on earth who has
I don't think you made it up.
Like, go to it like a Messianic church, you know? Like, there's like hundreds of different groups.
I never said you made it up. What I'm saying is that your system is written.
No, but you did say we made it up. Like, you said we made it up like 20 times. Like the written Torah, we made it up. We wrote it. Like me and Sroli here. Like,
I never said that, right? So again,
okay. So then why do you discredit the written Torah so much? Because
all
we want to do is bring light to
it's the only way for him to prove the oral Torah.
No, I'm not discrediting the written Torah.
Unfortunately, that seems to be the direction of this conversation. I wish that weren't the case.
I'm putting into question your belief that the Torah is in fact from Sinai, because right now we have two sects. We have
my belief that Torah is in fact from Sinai. Do you believe that Torah is actually from Sinai?
Of course, we both.
How did we both come to that conclusion?
So mine is by evidence, right? By most systems,
and mine is not by evidence,
and yours is by nothing.
You're right. It's by feeling and by nothing. But I come to you with proof, and I said that my evidence is right here. I read the story. I saw the land. I read a lot of historians that confirm that this is true.
Right. So reading
a billion followers even have their own variation of this religion.
Right. So
the Jewish people don't actually follow their own practice.
Right. So reading the story of what
it sounds like you don't know the Torah very well. You might know oral Torah, but
that's just begging the question again, right? So again, I'm waiting for you to actually provide either evidence of Torah from Sinai, or to deal with
I can actually read like 4 or 5 different quotes.
More justifiable to believe right now.
I don't think
you're providing an ounce of evidence of Torah from Sinai.
Like Moses wrote this Torah and gave it to the Kohanim, like that. Is that good for you? And Deuteronomy, for this commandment that I command you today, it's not hidden from you. It's not distance. It's not in the heaven for you to say, who can ascend to the heaven and take it for us so that we can listen to it and perform it? Nor is it across the sea for you to say, who can cross to the other side of the sea and take it for us so that we can listen to it and perform it? Rather, the matter is very near to you. It's in your heart and in your mouth in order to perform it. Like because it's written Torah, like, should you just laugh or something? Like, no. I don't know why did you discredit this? Like, I just read straight from the literature. Why is that discredited to you?
Right. So the issue with appealing,
because it sounds like that is the position.
Right. So the issue with appealing, which I was trying to clarify, to the Torah as evidence that it came from Sinai is because you're committing the fallacy of begging the question.
But you can commit to you can refer to the transmission of the rabbis as evidence for the transmission. That's not begging the question.
A chain to show to display.
What about the chain from Moses to Jesus? What about the chain from Moses to Jesus? I'm curious. What about that chain?
Let me finish. The claim, right, of the Torah, which is that it was given at Sinai, right, can be substantiated through, for example, a chain that is not in the Torah. Because that's not appealing to the Torah to show the claim is true.
But it is a chain. It starts with the 3,500-year-old claim,
right.
At least from the literature standpoint,
that starts all the way
to Joshua, all the way down to Ezra. There's a stream. Okay.
So you don't acknowledge the chain of the Bible. You don't acknowledge the chain of history. You only acknowledge the chain of rabbinic authority.
I acknowledge the chain of the Bible. Show me that it's.
It doesn't sound like you do, though.
Show me it.
Because
the entire Bible is maintaining the Torah of Moses. Everyone's referencing the Torah of Moses.
So again, you're appealing to the Bible to prove the Bible. That's begging the question.
No, the Bible is the train of transmission. You're appealing to oral Torah to verify oral Torah.
I'm appealing to
Orthodox
change
Jew,
to verify the written Torah.
But you're once the verification is done in your mind, okay, let's just go there, just so we can make some progress on this, because this whole like verification system is really crappy. You could even argue on both sides, right? I'm willing to take the L there just to make some progress in this conversation. Is that all right with you? Could we talk about another subject so I can gain more insight into your understanding?
Right. So
okay. So you're saying okay to that?
No, hold on a second. So the purpose of the debate.
So no, you want to stay on the subject of verification at Sinai?
Yes, and I'll tell you why.
Okay, got it. So you don't want to move on from that.
Because the topic of this debate was an oral Torah given at Sinai? Was in fact an oral Torah given?
It's not whether or not oral Torah is valid. I thought that was kind of
no. It was an oral Torah given at Sinai, right? Now, if in fact, right, we go by the two systems we're looking at, which is your system is written only and excluding the oral Torah. We come to a place where we have not an ounce of evidence the Torah is from Sinai. If we go by the rabbinic tradition, right?
I'm the only guy here holding a big, thick book like this of evidence is you're pointing at your blue light, dude.
Your evidence is circular reasoning. But okay, again, if you're the only sect of Judaism, the only system that has an ounce of evidence that Torah is from Sinai is the system that affirms an oral and written tradition, right? So why should we follow your system which is completely unverifiable and has no evidence.
Again, not my system. And you would have to pull up where you found this oral ideology from, which will come from a much earlier and newer book called the Mishnah and the Talmud.
Sure.
When I'm using this as the information that is older than you, and I've already brought proof claims that it is an older book. So now we have the issue.
Hold on, when you keep doing, I'm trying to clarify this for you, like, respectfully, but when you keep appealing to the Torah to prove the claim of the Torah, you're begging the question.
Yeah,
Stop doing
you
that.
I
can.
don't know why he thinks that
It's a major
the
fallacy.
Orthodox Jews have confirmed that Sinai really happened.
It's
You
a major
understand that it's a
fallacy.
faith. It's a faith. There is no real confirmation. I want you, if that were
Thank you.
actual
You have
fact,
just conceded that in your system of Judaism, how you know the Torah is from Sinai is strictly by faith. So how about this? By faith, the oral Torah is from Sinai. Have a good day. By faith, the oral Torah is from Sinai.
okay.
That's not evidence. You've just proven that.
Yeah, but I want to know what yours is. You
Yeah,
just keep saying oral Torah, but where is it?
Here's the problem: is that the written Torah rules out the possibility of an oral Torah when it says that you should follow what is written in this book of the Torah without adding or subtracting, and that Moses completed this writing and document. So the very text that you think you are affirming and confirming is denied by this quote-unquote transmission of the oral Torah. So the transmission of the entire people of Israel, the entire history of that entire region, that's not enough transmission for you. The only transmission that would verify it is the transmission in Pirkei Avot, where the rabbis arbitrarily trace themselves back to Moses, the same way Jesus can trace himself back to Moses, the same way Muhammad can, the same way I can, right? So this is completely absurd. Either you accept the transmission of history as being true history, and you see the quality of the revelation in the Torah and take it on faith.
Prove it historically take place. I'm waiting. Go ahead. Prove historically the Torah was given.
You haven't proven
But
shit.
you haven't done the same thing. So why are you saying that
I
we
give
are?
you more evidence than what you have, which is
Can you give me that evidence? What is the evidence? I want to hear it from
By
you.
the way, just to address what you said that
You just keep saying oral Torah, but we don't even know what oral Torah is. If I was a viewer, if I was a layman, right? Like, you know, you have to like talk to people who kind of have some sort of understanding about these things. You keep saying oral Torah. Where is it? What is it? What can you point to? Where did you learn about this?
Where did I learn about the oral Torah?
Yeah.
Where did you learn about the Torah?
In the book.
Thank you.
You learned about it from school, from your rabbi in another book.
Great.
How does this book is less valid than your book. So what book confirms the oral Torah? I want that question answered from you.
So my evidence for the oral Torah being the oral Torah being with the written Torah, the most plausible system.
Wait, with the written Torah? Because it sounds like the written Torah literally doesn't exist without the oral. So where is the oral?
Well, hold on a second, right? My evidence for the oral Torah with the written Torah being the most plausible position is the fact if you go written only, you cannot verify at all the Torah was from Sinai.
Written only?
Yes, if you go by your system, which is the written
So they mean that they're intertwined, right?
You cannot provide an ounce of evidence the Torah is from Sinai, which is what's been going on. Like here,
but you can with the oral Torah?
As I already showed you. You can provide.
You didn't show us. You're making claims.
Yes, I did.
Dude, you're sitting on the other side. Show me. That's what I'm asking you to show me.
Also, you said that the only valid you said that the people preserving the Torah preserve the written and the oral, but you're in complete denial of the Sadducee tradition, which denies the rabbinic authority, of the Karaite tradition, which denies rabbinic authority. All throughout history, as Dan mentioned, the Torah has either been gone and not followed at all, or there's been detractors from rabbinic authority. The rabbis popped up 1,500 years after. 1 second, let me finish my statement. The rabbis popped up 1,500 years after Moses, claiming to have a direct transmission, and you're believing them. You find their claims to be more believable than the accepted history of all of humanity and the entire people of Israel, and the quality of the revelation in the Torah that supersedes the oral Torah by 10 million. Named in the name of God, Moses, Moshe, and Yahweh spoke to Moses saying, yet you're going to pretend that your oral Torah, which contradicts the written Torah that says not to add or subtract to it, is somehow more evidence?
How that works perfectly fine.
Somehow more evidence?
If the halachot that are found in the oral Torah were given at Sinai, right? If the 13 principles, for example, were given at Sinai as law, then it's not adding or subtracting to what's
really
given. And
I was told not
you conceded
to follow.
You conceded to this at the beginning.
Actually,
this is clip.
The Torah itself says that you may not add or subtract to this, and you must follow what is written in this book of the Torah. Okay. So the Torah itself disproves the existence of an oral Torah.
I have a question for you, Israel. Are the Dead Sea Scrolls before Christ?
Yeah, Dead Sea Scrolls, and the Septuagint is before the Dead Sea Scrolls.
I just like to make a historical claim for.
Wait, I'm gonna hold hard. What's this? Who wrote the Septuagint?
It was a translation of the Torah to Greek.
But by who? By who?
Jewish rabbis,
No, it
presumably.
was by the 72 elders that were Pharisees. So if you're going to affirm the transmission of the Septuagint,
What about the Samaritan Torah?
as being reliable, you're going to have to.
My point is that they're all.
Tradition also.
My point is that they're all cohesive. The Samaritan Torah is also cohesive. The only thing they change is the location of the temple.
Right. So show me that the Samaritan Torah is the same Torah that was given at Sinai by Moses. Show me that was in fact.
My point is that all of the versions of the Torah that we have, dating back thousands of years, are all cohesive and pretty much the same, and keep the narratives intact and compact. That's the point. Sure. And you're right. There is a gap. There is a gap in terms of from the time of what's called, like, in terms of actual manuscripts. Yeah, but again, Ezra himself is a prophet and a scribe in the Torah of Moses. Everyone, David tells Solomon, follow the Torah of Moses. Joshua tells the Israelites, follow the Torah of Moses.
How do you know what that Torah is? How do you know the Torah you have is in fact that Torah?
Okay, can I just bring up
faith? Apparently, you don't really like faith a lot.
He doesn't have it.
By faith, the old Torah is given at Sinai.
One second. Let's just go with the actual pieces of evidence here, because you're just referencing oral Torah, that it's older, that my evidence is that I can claim out loud that it's evidence. Let me get in a word. You haven't let me get in a word.
The Torah being given at Sinai.
I'd like to get in a word. That's not true.
You already conceded your evidence was the Torah itself, which is begging the question.
There is no evidence. There is no evidence. There is no evidence. The evidence is contextual due to what history has been able to maintain over time. And you look at it from many different angles, not just one. So let's start with the actual, let's go with the Dead Sea Scroll as before Christ, right? Just in a small window. Then you look at the Mishnah, which comes after, which is the first claim to oral Torah being real, right? And so where did people get the Bible from? They got it from Jews. Wouldn't it make sense that the Jews would maintain the 5 books of Moses, the written Torah, the way that he wanted it to? That it didn't require an oral tradition, but it literally required writing it down over and over again and passing it from one person to another.
Well, sure,
that is the nature of what we believe in as Jews. We actually believe that so much, but we also add this intertwined thing that, by the way, according to your oral Torah, if you want to read the introduction to the Zohar, it says that it was so old, it was there by the time of Adam, that Adam had it. And it went from Adam. It's like, bro, you're literally going to go back to the garden. That's where you are. You talk about evidence. You're in the freaking Garden of Eden with Adam and Eve and the snake. We're here with pieces of literature that have affected all of culture. And you have a streamline. You have a streamline of the most important thing. You're skipping over the most important thing about Judaism, brother. Is what does it do for you? What does it do for the Jewish people? What does it do for others?
I'll wait till you're done. Okay, so your piece of evidence you provided, as I already showed you, has a 1,300-year gap from Sinai, right? A 1,300-year gap, which does not show any evidence at all that, in fact, the Torah was actually given at Sinai, the one we have today.
But if the rabbis say that their transmission fills the gap, then it's fine?
That wasn't my argument.
That is your argument. Who says that the transmission in the first paragraph of Avot Mishnah is true? The rabbis say that. It is self-referencing. It's the exact same argument. Except you are using self-referencing human being, really power-hungry maniacs, and we're referencing a prophet like Moses, who's the greatest prophet that ever lived.
Right. So when we're looking at epistemic ways of transmission, right, and we evaluate them, right? I'm not saying because rabbinic Jews believe in the oral Torah, therefore it's true. This was your argument for the written Torah, faith. That's ridiculous. That's not my argument.
But you're saying the transmission.
My argument is that the fact that we have a chain of narration, and
you think if you give it a chain of narration,
and a direct personal attestation, this is much more epistemically justified than faith.
You know words. Wow. Excuse me. Are you telling me that there isn't
an epistemology is?
Of course I know what these words mean. I just don't feel the need to use stupid words to sound smart.
Israel, what's epistemology?
Dude.
What's epistemology?
The nature of knowledge.
The nature of how we know.
Of how we know things, Mr. Philosophist.
Okay, yeah.
Dude. Oh my God, you got me there.
Okay, listen, so again, are you going to show evidence of Torah from Sinai other than your faith?
No, but that's the thing, though. I'm willing to
the attestation.
I'm willing to concede. I'm willing to concede. I'm a dumbbell, bro. Right? I run a business. I run a couple ones. I help people with the Bible. I get them healthy. Right? People who are in addiction, incarceration, and homelessness, right? And I provide for people. I have their jobs, right? I also have a family of other people. I don't have my own kids, likely like yourself, right? But because I don't understand these words, does that mean that, like, our point of view is invalid, does it mean that the written Torah is invalid? Because it just sounds like you keep invalidating the written Torah when you're literally sitting amongst two human beings, two other Jews. Let me finish. Two other Jews who actually want to get to some common ground here. And you're like, you can't prove. And your best proof is that we have oral Torah confirmation after the time of Christ until now.
We have a written,
that is the heaviest line of self-referencing. So and you should listen to a little bit about the history. I'm just going to educate you on a little bit of history.
I never
here.
said that. Well,
the Jewish people were expelled from the land when oral Torah came out. We were disgraced all over the world. We were dirty and disgusting. And you actually have great confirmation that we were. It's called Christianity. It says that there were this group of people, Pharisees, who put their washing of the hands above loving thy neighbor as thyself. Their adulterous lustfulness, their murderousness, right?
You can't get to the Father. Do you affirm this?
Do I affirm what? Is that how you go into everything? Are you going to go on a date with a girl and be like, do you affirm this? Do you affirm this?
Do you affirm that you can't get to the Father unless you go through the Son?
I don't even believe in Jesus like that. I'm trying to make a point here about what happened to your belief set, to Jewish people.
Thank you.
You don't want to listen about anything else. If it allows me to have a conversation with you, I will literally admit on camera for you that we cannot confirm that Sinai actually happened through written Torah.
Thank you for admitting that.
It's not enough.
So
now can we have a conversation about something else? Can we talk like people? Or is that something you're incapable of? Because you know how many Orthodox people I've went through just like you who can't have a normal conversation? You have to understand your indoctrination is real. You're a manifestation of it. I want people to see it.
What's the justifiable system to believe? We've already concluded it's going.
Can you verify? Can you verify? Ha ha ha! You don't know words like epistemology. Like, come on, dude. Come on.
Epistemology?
I can't even say it. I'm a dumbbell, dude.
Thank you for admitting you're a dumbbell.
See? Exactly. You can come meet me at my boxing gym, right? Where I give people therapy, where I teach them the Bible, where people from addiction, incarceration, and homelessness get healthy. I even come at it from a Christian frame too. Ha ha, ha ha ha. Me in America living amongst the Christians, the dumb Christians, and me and my oral Torah, my gefilte fish.
The Goyim.
I mean, dude, that's insane, dude. The guy literally.
No, this guy's gone.
Well, he's gone. He dipped out.
Yeah, and his second friend didn't even show up.
Yeah. So we now know that Orthodox kids are responsible, respectable, and smart.
No, honestly, like this guy was like, oh, the attestation of the epistemological transmission of the rabbis is more valid than the attestation of the epistemological knowledge of the entire Israelite nation and the entire region and the history.
All he did was self-reference the whole time. He couldn't concede to a single point. He couldn't move on from a single thing.
The guy self-referenced the oral Torah as proof.
Boy.
When again, the oral Torah is full of unprovable lies that contradict the actual scripture.
I'm just saying, like, is that really where this comes from? Like he's actually in belief about the oral Torah, right? Being the written word, even though it's not written, and that it confirms the written Torah, but it actually denies the written Torah because you couldn't understand the written Torah without the oral Torah, as opposed to just following this. Like, there's billions of people who follow this piece of literature, benefit from it. Mm-hmm. People with mental issues can read this and go through it and find value in it. But an Orthodox Jew can't. He has to confirm. It's like, you have to wake up to the idea that you could be indoctrinated too. Mm-hmm. And that there's only a very, very small subdivision of people who are Orthodox Jews. And they all malpractice. And they're in a ton of different divisions. What is the point of all of this? And look, I'm sorry, this is, I like to have fun. I'm not a Rebbe like, Mr. Horowitz over here on his stream. So maybe I'm not exactly the speed of all of your viewers. But boy, like I'm kind of happy it ended. No, God, I'm so glad that I'm going to get to have an afternoon.
No, that's crazy. Again, like I've debated.
Like he would go on for forever.
Yeah. Again, like he came with, I'll lock you in. And this is like the stupid internet culture. It's like, oh, if I win the debate on a technicality, it's like, dude, we're here to have a real conversation about real things. And instead it turns into a gotcha moment. But I want to make a broader point about how ridiculous it is that like PP boys can get on the internet and just click cancel when they would never, ever talk like this in person. I mean, it's people who've actually developed responsibility and decency. I'd like to make a point. I thought that was a very, very good point about that.
Christianity, which is literally the most successful religion in terms of numbers, in terms of influence, in terms of people following the Bible, literally America is based off of that. It's not based off of Orthodox Judaism. Okay. It's based off of the Bible, which is influenced by the Jews, of course, but there has been many different versions of Jews over the course of history where we actually confirm that the Pharisaical Jew was established by the time of the Mishnah, and they ran with that. And there was a terrible history. I never got to make that point either. He thought that that was irrelevant because all of this comes down to confirming Sinai when you literally cannot confirm by any other means than the current literature that we have.
Absolutely. And again, the whole train of transmission that is mentioned in Avot, which is what he's referencing, or Maimonides, it's from Moses to Joshua to the elders. I guess would be the judges, would be more accurate, to the prophets, to the men of the great assembly. That's where you start getting into rabbinic territory, to the rabbis, right? So they're following the transmission of the Bible, and they're relying on this history and this authority to make it true. Yet when you actually reference the truth of the foundational narrative, it turns into, that's not enough evidence. The evidence is the institution and the rabbi's transmission, but not the revelation and the people's memory. It's just robbing people of the ability to even access divinity and truth and God.
Wow, it's really sad. It's really sad because there was a point where I looked just like that. And if I wanted to sit down and, figure out some fancy terms for debate speech, right, you'd be able to say that. But I would just keep self-referencing myself. And ultimately, aren't we trying to get some common ground here? When did debate turn into like, I just want to make you look like a fool. I want to get you on your ass. I want to flip you over, as opposed to making viewers understand your point of view. Nobody understood this kid's point of view. It was very simple. The unbroken chain of oral Torah that is confirmed through the oral Torah tells me that it's the most piece of evidence until Sinai. That's what happened the whole time. And I'm like, dude, okay, like maybe you're right. I'm dumb. Like I don't know, whatever. Like I can hit him at every single point. But no, it's unbroken. It's unbroken. And for people who weren't Orthodox and aren't Orthodox, that is how the system works. They basically break you into submission. This is a serious call out to all Orthodox Jews, by the way. As anybody, I'm sure people have seen the story of Pinocchio, right? Where your kids, you take them and you send them to Pleasure Island, right? Where you say, come, leave your parents, be in Bachelorville, and they do whatever they want. They smoke, they do whatever. Obviously it's a kid's movie. They're not showing like prostitution and homosexuality and all sorts of, hedonistic acts. But ultimately what ends up happening is they do enough of it. They turn into an ass. They turn into a donkey. And then the people ship them up and then they ship them away for the rest of their life as they live their lives out as donkeys and cattle and herd for the state, right? What I've seen happen as an Orthodox Jew who didn't go to Orthodox day school, all of my friends went to Orthodox school. They got put in Israel where you're supposed to read Orthodox literature from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. at night, to where you were not going to do that. You're going to go out. You're going to go to the gay bars. You're going to go to the whatever. You're going to go hook up with girls. You're going to do drugs. You're going to break yourself. And then the only other alternative is, all these things the Rebbe has been telling me that are bad for me, they're really bad, which means the way of the Rebbe is the way. And then they become an ass, they go back, they're shipped out, and they become an Orthodox train of thought person. It's like, you understand that like there's so many people in history who were Jewish, none of them were Orthodox and were valid. Like, let's talk about Isaac Luria for a moment, right? This guy, the Arizal, was so insane. He literally created a movement. By the way, he never wrote down any of his things. He created a movement that influenced a false messiah that ended up becoming a Muslim in public. That's Shabtai Savi for people who don't know. Okay. There's just been like disgrace after disgrace. It's like, even Spinoza, for people who don't know who Spinoza is, he was a rejected Jew who decided to come up with his own form of like nihilistic Judaism. He was really a brilliant philosopher and poet. And he died at a young age of a lung condition, lung disease. But he influenced people like Albert Einstein. Okay. That's what he did with his life, and there's gaps, there's really bad examples of non-practicing Jews like Karl Marx or Trotsky, for
Mhm.
example, were responsible for millions of deaths, hundreds of thousands of deaths in the Bolshevik Revolution. And that goes to show, it's like, what have we done? I can't even have a conversation with an Orthodox Jew that isn't about anything that oral Torah, the Rebbe. That's not a conversation. Don't we have a reason why it is that you're an Orthodox Jew? I'd like to see from an Orthodox Jew that the reason that I'm Orthodox is because I get to spread the word of God to other people, and I teach them to not steal, to not kill, to treat their neighbor like themselves. None of that came out from this. It's all emptiness. And if anything, it kind of confirms the Christian story, which is there is a group of people who put the micro above the macro, and they use their own religion and religion in general in order to advance their own ways, where they literally murder Christ.
Mhm.
And I think that's a wonderful story. And that's why I'm willing to concede. I don't lose sleep at night over this idea that, like, Christ is God, or Yahweh, or oral Torah. This is like, aren't we trying to build a nation of people, a nation of priests who don't follow the abominable practices of everybody else? How can you discredit Moses literally claiming that I wrote it himself in his own literature, to Joshua confirming it, to Ezra confirming it, to Josiah claiming? How come in all of the Old Testament there's no mention of an oral Torah?
Not one.
Well, that's for the viewers to read for themselves. Maybe read the Torah and educate yourself on like a very small piece of literature. Or you can take whatever that kid's name was, and you can read hundreds of thousands of books from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. at night, and you'll be stuck being able to do nothing. You can't comb your hair. You can't have a nice body. You can't hang out with girls. You can't sleep with your wife for every 2 weeks. You can't cut your nails. You have to eat gefilte fish. You have to be a fat tub of shit. Okay? I'm out. Thank you. God bless you guys.
God bless everyone. Thanks for coming down.
You're welcome.
Thank you all for being here.